Seconds ago, 20 GOP lawmakers in the House said no today. 2 more no's, and it would not have passed. Will they jump in line behind the president and others in their party on tax cuts? My first guest on this busy Thursday is Elizabeth Harrington of the Washington Free Beacon. And Elizabeth, the question is, will they fall in line, and just how close did they really get?
It's extremely close because, as you mentioned, these 20 Republicans, most of them come from very blue states, New York and New Jersey. They're very opposed to the House GOP blueprint for tax reform, which eliminates the state and local deduction. So what you have these high tax states. A lot of their constituents take this deduction. If they get rid of it, they're signaling to Speaker that, hey, we're voting no now because we want to negotiate on deduction. So that's going to be one of the key things here, that Kevin Brady and Paul Ryan are going to have to get together with these members to get them across the finish line. But I think you have to give Speaker Ryan credit. You got to give a lot of conservatives in the House credit, too, for voting on this proposal that gives Republicans the opportunity to pass tax reform. A lot of conservatives had to hold their nose, too, because this budget blueprint did not include the $200 billion in spending cuts that they fought so hard to include. Instead, they adopted the Senate version just so they can negotiate now and move forward with the tax reform by the end of the year.
All right, so I mentioned just how close did they really get, and I ask this because we see both parties do this sometimes, Elizabeth. So how convenient is it? They could only lose 22 and 20 said no, and sometimes you'll see lawmakers waiting to cast their no vote late in the process so they can make sure that they're not the reason that the resolution doesn't pass. So it's more of like a vocal cry of, I say nay, but only if it's within the realm where we can actually win on this principle.
Exactly, and you had some of these moderate Republicans kind of waiting next to the whip, right before this vote was coming down, and they still voted no, but they kind of made sure that, well, they won't be the deciding vote. But so I think that is why this is so important, that it's such a signal for them. They weren't willing to kill the tax reform in its tracks this year by voting. They just wanted
to beat it.
Right. They just want to say that, hey, like, this is our priority. If you don't fix this for us, then we will continue to be a no, and we'll get the rest of our moderates to vote against it the next time.
You know what's interesting? A lot of times with these situations, you'll see American voters will watch these things and they'll say, well, those points aren't really, accessible to me. They don't really affect my life. But when you talk about in big communities, California, New York, New Jersey, where you've got these big cities are really banking on being able to write off state and local taxes, SALT as we call them. And then the 401k issue came back today, too, after the president had said yesterday as he was boarding Air Force One or Marine One as he was headed to Dallas, he said, well, look, some things you just don't touch. You might have thought he meant the 401k and cutting down how much money you can put in your retirement that is not taxed. But is that really what he meant? Because then he said it's on the table for negotiation.
I think it's a non-starter for Trump. He said multiple times that that is something that's very popular with the middle class, and that's something that they do not want to be blamed for by Democrats by harming the middle class. I think that and the corporate rate not going above 20% are two things that the White House are so adamant about keeping.
Those are deal breakers?
Right. So I think, but the deal breakers here, or the negotiating ones, is the SALT deduction, the state and local deduction, because you have Mulvaney, the budget director, saying, hey, we think we should get rid of it because it's fairness, but at the end of the day, you're going to need a lot of these Republican moderates on board, and so if they're going to negotiate and maybe cap it for high-income individuals and, give a little room on that, that is probably what will end up happening, and they'll have to give some room there.
Elizabeth Harrington with the Washington Free Beacon, you'll understand why I've got to scoot. We've just got a lawmaker to join us who voted no today, so I'm going to scoot. But thank you very much. So